This is Mr. Vacation.
Vacation Land.
Happy Menace Monday to everybody out there. This is how I made the beat for my new song, Answer Me.
I feel like not enough. Why I deal with them.
Alright, a little context. This is the oldest beat on the project. I made it in 2022, back when I was still in anti-culture. So when I pulled up the session, it's actually kind of a mess. This one's actually kind of a mess. There's essentially 3 parts to this beat. The first part is kind of an intro, a little bit spacey, not necessarily like a hip-hop beat, but it transitions into the second part, which is the main, more hip-hop type of beat. When I originally made this beat, I started with the second part. I just made that, kept it like it was for a while, and then when I revisited it, I had an idea for an intro, so then the first part was born, and I had to find some way to transition these two, which was actually kind of a mess to figure out. So, we're going to start with the first part, the intro. Most of the non-drum and bass instrumentation came from Omnisphere. This is Omnisphere. And then one was from the Mellotron. Here's the Mellotron. So I'll just start breaking this down bit by bit because it's pretty layered and actually quite a mess. So the first thing is Omnisphere. And sort of the intro of the intro, I combine that with a Mellotron that has a lot of effects on it, so it's really spaced out. And if you can see down here, I put an ARP on the chords they're playing. So they're playing these chords that are the same as the starting chords of this Omnisphere track, but the arpeggiator is random. And when you do that, every time you open the session, it's going to play randomized notes from the chords. So whatever you hear in the actual song is just the day I printed the stem, and it provides a little bit of chaos to the beat. And after those two things, we add some piano elements, but not any traditional piano. One track is this reverse piano here. And then the same chords, but on kind of a reverb piano arpeggiator track. Sounds like this. And the last thing, as far as the instruments go, in this section of the intro, is this little sparkle, this little shine. Again, same chords, but just a completely different sound. Sounds like this. And then there's a little transition noise that's made up of frozen audio of the Moog in the last section. Sounds like this. Combined with a drum fill in reverse. And then just a classic riser sound. So all together they sound like this. Kind of leads us into the main part of the first part of this song. We bring back the Omnisphere sound. And we combine it with the Mellotron and the reverse piano to kind of play off of these pockets. I'll show you the pockets. And now we'll cover the drums in this section, which there's also a lot going on. Also, just a giant mess. Starts out with these stems of acoustic drum kit that I reversed. Underneath them, I have this lo-fi filtered out kick and snare. So if they sound like this. I used those same drums in the second part and then played the pauses kind of like I did with the other instruments, but added more forward trappy drums and kind of a gliding 808. Sounded like this. So you combine the drums for this part and you get this. So the lo-fi reverse ones get cut off by the more upfront trappy ones with the 808. And finally, the main part of this intro sounds like this. And then just before the transition to kind of phase out of the intro of part 1 of this beat, I put this redux on the entire first part so that when you slide in the transition, it sounds like this. So now the transition is just made up of drums that will come into the second part, so I'll show you later. Bass that will also come into the second part, I'll show you later. And some snippets of just kind of some shit talk. Just kind of a mess. Just yelling, laughing, pretty much a mess. But it sounds like this.
You won't think this fight is no joke when you come through and your nose is broke. No wonder you don't get no respect. I tell you, I don't deserve no respect.
Okay, you get the idea. Now we're in the second part. It's more of a straightforward beat. But instead of Omnisphere, it's made up of pretty much all stock Ableton sounds. I'll go through them real quick. And again, they're playing essentially the same, pretty much the same thing, but they're just different sounds. And I combine them at different times. A lot going on. It's a mess. Okay, the first instrument is this electric piano. And then the arpeggiator. It's kind of a whirly sound. And then finally this pretty shitty sounding pad that belongs in a horror movie. And now going to the drums of this section. This is something I used to do a lot. I don't really do anymore, but I would pre-make what is called a selector kit in Ableton. And for a selector kit, you have these pads, kind of like your normal Ableton drum rack. Although each pad has, as you can see over here, it's got 36 samples on this pad alone. And using this macro knob, you can cycle through the sounds like this. So the drums sound like this. And combined with that, I found, I don't even know what this is. I was just clicking around on the Ableton stock sounds randomly. It's like an operator preset. And it's not a melodic sound. It's more of like a percussive sound. It sounds like this. You combine those two and it sounds like this. I'm just gonna add in the 808 with this part here. So for that second part of the beat, when you combine everything, it sounds like this. And that's it. That's how I made the oldest beat from 2022 that still made it on this project. Very complicated one. Again, a little bit of a mess. And that's all from me, so stick around for more of my beat breakdowns, tips, and tricks of the trade. And until next Monday, this is Mr. Vacation. Signing off.